Hey, this is Britton back again with Sweet and Sour Comic Collecting. This is our third episode. This week we've got, again, comics from eBay, comics from a couple of old reliable stores, Krypton Comics and Ground Zero Comics, and then we found a new place in Council Bluffs, which is actually a pretty old place, but new to us. It's called Canesville Collectibles. Hey, before we get into those books that we got this week, we got a couple of clips of the places that we visited. So the first issue we're going to talk about today is, again, series close to my heart, is the Uncanny X-Men. At this time, they were still called the all-new, all-different X-Men. I got issue 110 off a seller on eBay for a pretty good price. I'd say it's probably a 4 or 5 copy, maybe even a 5.5 with a good cleaning. Stories by Chris Claremont, and then art is by Dave Cockrum, and basically first appearance of Warhawk. I don't know if he was actually in any other comic books after this appearance. This was kind of a one-off story. I think it's kind of interesting because it showed the X-Men, I think for the first time, the new X-Men kind of at home, relaxing, showing them a little less as superheroes. They were playing baseball, having a good time, but they still end up using superpowers, even though that's kind of a thing they're not supposed to do when they play regular sports. But a good classy story, good issue. Highly recommend it for anybody who's collecting X-Men comics. And, what can you say? It's Chris Claremont's writing. So he's who made the X-Men the X-Men. The next couple books we got, they were from the shop in Council Bluffs, Canesville Collectibles. These are my son's comics. Sam, as we know, he's an avid Spider-Man collector. He saw this really nice condition 125. As you can see, it's got the hologram in the middle. And it's the first appearance of the new Green Goblin. The character's name escapes me. as I am not a collector, and again, I apologize for that, but really good condition issue. He saw this, had to have it. If you look at the book, I know it's kind of hard to see, but all the corners are squared off, super white pages, no spine ticks. I'd say it's actually a pretty good candidate, 9.2, 9.4, maybe even a 9.6. Really clean issue. The next issue he got, he just thought it was a really neat cover. We got to get a board for it still. That'll happen this week. But it's issue 91 of The Web of Spider-Man. Again, he's thinking real neat cover. And as I look at it, the pages are just a little bit off-white. That's probably a good solid 8 candidate, maybe a 7. I'm not a professional grader. I just kind of read the stuff on the internet to see what I think it is. But again, overall, he's got a really good eye. He doesn't typically pick out, if you will, bad comics that are from the 90s and the 80s and the 2000s. So, and this is also a newsstand copy. So for newsstand copy, I think it's in pretty good shape. Then we're going to get into the New Mutants. That was another title that I collected in the 80s and into the 90s. And the first issue I'm going to talk about, I found at Ground Zero, and that was issue number 12. This is where we get to see Bobby DaCosta, a.k.a. Sunspot, and he has some pretty terrible interactions with his dad. It's pretty clear that they don't get along very well, and his dad pretty much thinks he's a failure for just being a mutant. It's also got some more of Magma here, and then, of course, the rest of the team as well. Again, writing from Chris Claremont. I'm a big Chris Claremont fan, so how can you go wrong with that? So then the next issue that I got was from Canesville Comics. I didn't have this issue for some reason, and I think it's probably because most of my New Mutants run I got from the newsstands and not from direct editions. And so maybe I just missed this month. But I didn't have this issue, and now I do, and it's helping complete that run. And the final issue of the New Mutants that I'm going to show, and I got this at Canesville, and this was for $2. I got this book for $2, which is kind of crazy, but it was New Mutants number 1. And it's not in the best shape, but it's a good reader, and I didn't have it, and now I do. So, and again, Chris Claremont, good writer. I can't say it enough. Then, Krypton Comics. We went to Krypton Comics, and again, my son picked up Web of Spider-Man, number 25, and he absolutely loved this cover. I think it's a pretty neat cover myself, and it was a direct edition. Again, I'm not a big Spider-Man guy, but can't go wrong with Spider-Man. He's a pretty cool character. Now, I'm going to say, is this the find of the week, and probably the best find that Sam and I have had since we started this channel, and it was at Krypton Comics, and he picked this issue up for $30. This is Spider-Man number 67, and it's the Return of Mysterio. Phenomenal art. Great art. Sam, who is the artist on this? Do you know?
John Romita.
John Romita is the artist. And I've really come to appreciate Romita's art. And before Romita, it was Steve Ditko. And one of the things I noticed, the difference between the two, is that Ditko's art was really, he really didn't give the characters so much depth. And Ramada's drawings just brought a different dynamic. I think Spider-Man became a much more dynamic character with Ramada. And I think this cover is just indicative of how well he drew his covers. And yeah, and Stan Lee was still the writer at this time. Yep, so Stan Lee was still the writer, and you can't go wrong with him either. I mean, Stan the man. He did some great stories, and even though, again, I don't read a lot of Spider-Man, every once in a while I'll pick one up now and kind of thumb through it because Sam has gotten it, and I love the Silver Age stories. So I'm going to talk about a little bit of an important thing here when it comes to comic book collecting, and that is cataloging the issues that you have. So when we were in Canesville Comics, I found an issue of the New Mutants, and I said, oh, look at this, I don't have it. And my son Sam said, oh no, you've got that issue. And I said, no, I don't have it. And I have an online database, and I'm going to give a shout out to CLZ. It's an amazing database, and I've got all my comics cataloged. My son and I went through that and created that, and he's got all his comics cataloged. But for some reason, I didn't catalog this issue, even though my son kept saying, I know you have it, I've seen it. I know you have it, I've seen it. And I said, no, I don't. No, I don't. Well, I'm going to tell you right now that I got this issue at Canesville, the New Mutants, number 15, and came home, and he was right. I had already gotten it at Krypton Comics probably 2 or 3 weeks before, and for some reason I was remiss in putting it in my catalog and my database. So if you don't want to do the mistakes that I do, and I've done this a couple of times, buying the same issue over again, one, trust your son if he says you have it, and two, always update your databases. So we always talk about, or Sam and I talked about naming, when we named our web channel, why are we naming it Sweet and Sour? Because this is the Sweet and Sour right here. It's sweet that you have the issue, and it's sour if you get it again if you don't need it. So that's just an example of sweet and sour comic book collecting. I'll have another example next week of an issue that I picked up this week of sweet and sour. Until then, this is Britton DeWeese, and behind the camera, Sam DeWeese, signing off.